Hi guys, Chris here and welcome to my Xiaomi Redmi Note 3 review. So it's powered by the MediaTek 6795. They also call that the Helio X10 chipset, and that has a PowerVR 6200 GPU. And it comes in two models. You have a 2GB version and also a 3GB RAM version. Now the 2GB version has 16GB of storage, and this particular model that I have right here has 32GB of eMMC storage on it. And unfortunately there is no micro SD card support, and a move that I don't actually agree with. Xiaomi has removed support for micro SD cards in their latest products, which I think is a bad move. But anyway, we can't expand the storage, so I've decided to get the 32GB version because 16 really isn't enough. You have about 12GB free. In this particular model you get 26. So just before I focus on the hardware first, just quickly show you the packaging. And you can see that you can get the phone in two different colors. You have a white version, gold, and silver. This is the silver model. And the package itself does include a micro USB 2 cable. We do have a small charger, which Xiaomi has been using with various products that they're selling at the moment, including the Mi Pad 2, the Mi 4. Most of their phones now include this. It's a 5V 2A charger. Nice and small, and it's the US 2-prong, so you will need an adapter if you come from Europe or other countries. And they do include a SIM tool right here to remove the dual SIM slot, so you can put your micro SIMs in there, which I'll show you shortly. So the screen, you can see, looks bright and sharp. It's not a bad screen at all. It's a 1080p screen, so it's 1920 by 1080 and has a pixel density of 403 pixels per inch. So it's incredibly sharp, and you can't make out pixels really. I mean, you're going to have to almost get out a magnifying glass to see any pixels on this screen. It does look particularly well. At the moment I'm running full brightness because I have a powerful light beaming down on top of the phone for this review. But you can adjust the brightness, and you also have the option to set that automatically to adjust according to the light. There is an ambient light sensor up here on the top. So just walk you around the phone. We have the home button, back, and recent apps menu right here. Now on first boot you get around approximately, I'll just kill that off now, all the applications, about 1.4GB of RAM available. And as I mentioned, this particular model has 3GB of RAM, so a lot of that's already being taken up at the moment. Now moving around to the top, so we have an earpiece, 5-megapixel front-facing camera, and on the left-hand side, here's our SIM tray. And I will just open this up now, just to show you. So using the SIM tool, quite easy to open up, and our micro SIMs, not nano, but 2 micro SIMs can be placed in here just like this. So at the moment I just have the one SIM in there, but you can use another. Now it does support 4G. You do have to check out the bands to see if it will support your particular network. And unfortunately no room there for a micro SD card, which I find quite foolish, to be honest, but never mind. So I'll just put that back in. And on the back here we have a loudspeaker, the Mi logo. Now this is now made out of metal. It's a non-removable back, so you can't remove the battery. The battery is now 4000 milliamp hours, up 1000 milliamp hours from the Redmi Note 2. And along the bottom here, plastic, we have our microphone, micro USB 2 port, and a fingerprint reader, which is now new to the series. Dual tone LED flash, 13 megapixel camera, the same as the Redmi. And on the top we do have a IR blaster, so infrared to control various applications, 3.5mm headphone jack, another mic for noise cancellation. If you go around the top along here, there's actually metal trim all along here. The build quality is very good, especially considering the price of this mobile phone. I find it to be excellent. There's no creaks anymore or flex or anything with the phone. It does feel very solid, very premium, and I do like the build. Now I happen to think that the top parts here, I do think these are still plastic. So the backing here is metal, this part along the top. It's a good design choice, I think, to use plastic to help with the, of course, the signal with the antennas. I no doubt are probably along here, the GPS and your 4G LTE antennas built in there. And we do have on the right hand side the volume up and down and power on and off. So the fingerprint sensor on the back, I found that is working really well. I'll just quickly demonstrate that. So if I turn it off, all you need to do is place your finger on the back, you feel a vibration and the screen will come back on. And it tends to work literally 9 out of 10 times. I haven't had any problems with it. It works as good as my Galaxy Note 5. So again, if you lock it, unlock, boom. It's quite quick, not bad at all. So the UI is of course my own custom UI, and it does tend to look very much like iOS, especially when it comes to the icons along here on the top. You can see that that does look very Apple-ish, very much like Apple. They're trying to mimic their look, I think, with the UI. And if I move into the settings, you see they do have a slightly different menu set up, but if you have used Android 5 before and you're an Android user, you're not going to find it too hard to get around. There's all sorts of different options here they have included, and there's some features like, for example, child mode that might be handy if you do have children. You can lock them out of certain applications if you don't want them browsing the internet, if you have a limited data perhaps, and you don't want them to use any applications that access the internet to use up your data, then you can block them off and control that with a password, or more importantly using your fingerprint too, that you can do there. Now when it comes to the call quality and the loudspeaker, I'll just demonstrate that now. Change the ringtone. So there's a rear speaker there. And generally it's loud enough, the volume's good, call quality's good, I haven't had any problems. I know a lot of people forget to mention that in phone reviews, but we have to remember that at the end of the day this is still a mobile phone and the call quality is excellent. I haven't had any problems with it. Haven't had any problems with signal either. Right now I have 4 bars of signal, and my Galaxy Note 5 picks up around 3 bars, 4 bars, and the same really, call quality, no complaints at all. And it does pick up 4G, being a 4G phone. Now I haven't tried out the second SIM here because I don't have one at the moment, because that would be my Spanish SIM card. I'm down in New Zealand at the moment. If I connect that up, I'm going to get huge charges, so I have avoided using that at the moment. Now I'll just run through some benchmarks now for those interested. I did take some screenshots of various benchmarks that I ran, and we'll quickly go through those. So the first test that I did was Epic Citadel on the high performance level, got 46. Now this was running, I think 46 I got when it was first in balanced mode, setting the CPU to balanced, not high performance. Later in high performance that actually became 59 frames per second. Performance is reasonably good. Geekbench score, that multi-core score, being an octa-core, is quite high. An excellent score there. As you compare that, the single core scores to the Galaxy S5, there's Geekbench 3. And you can see here clearly ahead of the older Snapdragons there that are listed. And this is the Antutu score, coming up to 50,000 and 226, which is now slightly different scaling compared to the old Antutu 5.7. And compared to other devices, you're running similar to the Elite TV, which has the same chipset in it but performs higher for some reason there. And this is the Ice Storm Unlimited. And this is actually a problem I had running the CloudGate 3D Mark. It just wouldn't display correctly. Graphical glitches all over the place. So that's how it came out. But I still did get a result there. Sorry, Slingshot was the name of the test, sorry. 70 to 575. And this is the Epic Citadel test again once I ran it in performance mode. You see the frame rate went from mid-40s pretty much to almost the maximum there. Really good performance. That is a demanding test and it looks really nice. And here is the work performance PC Mark. Pretty good score there. And this is the download speeds. We're just testing out 4G at that moment there. You can see I was connected to the 4G network. And those speeds were around the same that I get on my Galaxy Note 5. And the battery life one of the most important things really when it comes to a mobile phone, of course, is how long will it actually last. And it got a excellent working time of 11 hours and 13 minutes running the PC Mark battery life test there. Not a bad score at all. And there's a minor breakdown there that if you want to go into details and compare that to your existing phone, you can run this test and just let it run, and it will run the battery out doing its test, and once it gets to 20% it will stop and give you the working time. So it's a good test. Now the GPS of the phone works really well. I had the accuracy down to 3 feet and it saw a lot of satellites picked up on that, and I didn't really have any problems moving around. Accuracy tend to jump up a little bit to maybe about 5 or 7 feet when I was moving, but overall really happy with the performance of GPS. And this is just part of the battery test. You can see the hardware, of course, being the screen as the main consumer there of energy. So it's like any phone, the screen is the one that sucks up most of the battery life, and PC Mark was the application using most of the power there. So wireless LAN was on for 12 hours, and my screen on time 12 hours and 8 minutes. I thought that to be particularly good. Now it does have a larger battery, of course, than much larger than the Redmi Note 2, which only has 3000 milliamp. When I say only, that's still a large battery, but this is larger, and it does make the device slightly larger than the Redmi Note 2. But overall, I think the thickness is okay. The weight of it's 160 grams, which isn't bad. And it's the trade-off you have for that larger battery in there. Is going to make the device slightly thicker, but I do think it's worth it. We're getting probably about 3 days use, medium use, heavy use. You should be able to get definitely a day, unless of course you're gaming non-stop. You're probably only going to get maybe 5 or 6 hours of gaming. Now I also mentioned too, to charge the Redmi Note 3 up took about 2.5 hours from when it was down to about 10% battery. So not too bad. It's okay, it's not the fastest, but there are phones that charge a lot slower than that I've seen. And that screen on time there of 12 hours is particularly good. If I compare that to some of the other MediaTek mobile phones I have reviewed, they normally get around 7, so it's a lot higher. So you're going to get very decent battery life out of this phone. So the phone's running MIUI 7, which is Xiaomi's own custom UI, and as you saw before, it does look very Apple-ish, as I mentioned. It does look like the iOS. But you can, of course, install Nova Launcher, Apex Launcher, Zen UI if you want. There's no problems with that. But overall, I found it to be fast. There hasn't been any stutter or any major slowdown or anything like that whatsoever. Performance has been good. And I'll just quickly show you CPU-Z here. You can see that there's all those different cores there. So we do have the 8 cores. And most of the time, those aren't running until needed. The graphics there is the PowerVR. And the thermals, not too bad. Gaming, I've seen it get up to about 65 degrees. You can see I've just got a little overlay at the moment. That's CPU temp running in the background there just to monitor the temperatures. And here are the sensors. A lot of people like to see just what sensors are on board. There's a few there. And a little bit of information on the battery. But overall, it's good. RAM usage. Uses a bit more RAM than I would expect there from the 3 gigabytes it has. It often only has about 1.2 free, so it does tend to cache a lot of things. And have a look over here in our applications running. There's a few things running in the background at the moment. The security app, Android there, of course. Mi Voice is their own voice over IP program. But in general, few things running, taking up a little bit of RAM there, but I just expected to see more free. So when it comes to camera performance, we still have that same sensor that literally everyone's using. It's the Sony 13 megapixel, I think it's the IMX214, but I can't actually find officially where Xiaomi have actually posted what particular sensor they're using, but I do think it's that one. It's either that one or a Samsung sensor. Now the image quality tends to be reasonably good. Actually in daylight it takes a decent photo. I will show you first just how quickly the camera application launches. That's the front facing camera. And I'll just swap that over to the rear one. So it launches literally in 2 seconds. Now the focus is that newer technology, well, the phase detection autofocus, and it tends to be slightly faster than most of the budget mobile phones in this price range. But sometimes the focus can be off. I've noticed in some of my photos, particularly if you download the samples which are included in the description of this video, you'll see that the photo of one of the smaller light aircraft, the Cessna they took off, was completely out of focus. So it can miss sometimes. I'll just run through in the gallery here some photo samples. Day shots, really good. The panoramic shot here didn't come out particularly well. I mean, it stitched it together nicely, but the resolution misses out on a lot of detail. It's quite a low resolution there. This photo came out particularly well. The sign here, very clear. Now it does support high dynamic range. And this is the front-facing camera. It's a sample there. The colors came out okay. It tends to be a little bit washed out there, the colors. And the photo of the beach there, of course, really good lighting. It was quite a nice day. And I will quickly show you now a video sample of the 1080p that it does shoot. And here's a lower light sample. The clock is all blurry, so low light photos aren't particularly good. And this is the front-facing webcam, just holding in my hand. It's a little bit windy here today, so there's going to be a bit of wind, noise. The camera quality seems to be okay. Now I just plugged into my Xiaomi headset that I have here. This is just a cheaper one. I think it's about $10 US. I think it's their standard headset, they call it. And the audio quality coming out of the 3.5mm jack is surprisingly good. There's no static, there's no interference. The sound is clear, it's good. I have no complaints with it. And you do get some options here too under the headphones settings. You can actually change things slightly, so you can change the remote buttons, assign different buttons, which is good to see. They do have an equalizer that you can fully adjust. And you can even use the sound enhancer that includes the Mi sound enhancer. And if you do have a set of Mi headsets, like this one here that I have, the headphones, you can select the particular model that you do have. And mine's the standard edition, I think it's what they call it. And when you do have the selected, it will actually optimize the sound output for the particular headphones you're using there. And I noticed it does make a slight difference to the sound, but overall the quality is really good for this price range. And I have no complaints. I mean, it sounds to me as good as my Galaxy Note 5. And now the fun part here, I'll just test out a few games running on the performance mode. So it's a maximum performance, which tends to make games run a lot better. And it will run all the cores, I think, at higher clocks. So not very good for battery life, but when it comes to gaming, it should give you optimal performance. So this one here is Mortal Kombat X. And this is quite a demanding game, but it's running it surprisingly well, actually. It's running it very well. I've seen this game cause quite a few tablets and mobiles to lag. And this title here is Dead Trigger 2. It's running very fluid. Not a problem for the chipset. And you see the temperatures are around 44 degrees. So it's not actually getting that warm running this game. And this one's Rail Racing 3. This game here is Dungeon Hunter 5, and for some reason there's a problem with it. There's no sound whatsoever. It's just affecting this game. Not sure what is going on there, but it runs the game well. Apart from having no audio, of course. This one is Eternity Warriors 4. And you can actually hear just how loud the speakers are. If I hold this up to the camera, a little closer for the microphone. You can hear that is quite a loud speaker there. So overall, this is a really decent phone, I think, for the price. For what you're getting, no other phones match this phone in terms of price and quality you're getting. And also the performance from the Helio X10 is excellent. It even plays demanding games like Mortal Kombat X really fluidly. There was that funny problem there with the audio not coming through with Dungeon Hunter. Not sure what that was about. But overall, the camera's good. This price range and all the other mobile phones I've tried, this has to be definitely one of the better ones. I highly recommend this mobile phone if you can get over the fact that you can't expand the storage. No micro support is a real bummer. I wish they had micro SD card support on this. It's the only really thing that is holding me back from saying this is almost a perfect budget phone for the price. I mean, the screen is excellent, the sound out of the loudspeaker, you have a fingerprint sensor which you don't normally get in this price range. Camera takes a good snap in daylight. Okay, low light it's not very good, but what 13 megapixel camera without any optical stabilization is going to take a really decent low light photo in a mobile phone? None really. And the audio output from the 3.5mm jack is again excellent. Audio quality, voice call quality, everything is just quality. The build, again, at this price point, it's really good, and Xiaomi are setting the standard. They really are going to be, I think, the Chinese manufacturer to beat. Thanks for watching my review. Hopefully see you in the channel with more up-and-coming videos on mobile phones and tablets. Bye for now.